श्री गुरु चरण पद्मा केवल भक्ति सदमा। श्री गुरु चरण पद्मा केवल भक्ति सदमा। बंदो मुई सावधान माते बंदो मुई सावधान माते। ये जहार प्रसादे ये बबतौरियो जहाँ। जहार प्रसादे ये बबतौरियो जहाँ। कृष्ण प्राप्ति होई जहाँ होते। कृष्ण प्राप्ति होई जहाँ होते। गुरु मुख पद्मा वाक्या चित्ते कोरिया क्या। गुरु मुख पद्मा वाक्या चित्ते कोरिया क्या। और न को रिहो मने आशा। और न को रिहो मने आशा। श्री गुरु चरण रति ऐसे उत्तम गति। श्री गुरु चरण रति ऐसे उत्तम गति। जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा। जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा। चक्षुदाना दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से। चक्षुतन दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित हो दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित हो प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते ये प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते वेद गाय जहर चीतो वेद गाय जहर चीतो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आत्म जनरा बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आत्म जनरा बंधु लोकनाथ लोकेरा जीवाना शिला प्रभुपाद लोकेरा जीवाना प्रभु कर दया देह मोरे पद छाया प्रभु कर दया देह मोरे पद छाया यहाँ प्रभुपाद पतित पवन दुआ पद लैला शरण विद्यागु सुत्रिभुवन जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपाद 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 नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निते नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्रितदेश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंदा। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंदा। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namah Hare Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namah Gopal Govinda Ram Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavat Gita Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radhe Shyam Jaya Radhe Shyam Jaya Radhe Shyam Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Prabhupada Nitai Gaur Haribol 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 Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhams Parivjakacharya Ashtottara Sata Sri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhams Parivjakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Ki Jai Anand Koti Vaishnav Vrind Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikau Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrind Ki Jai Sri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mayapur Navdeep Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Dwarka Dham Ki Jai गंगा मई की जय जमुना मई की जय भक्ति देवी की जय तुलसी महारानी जय साम्यवत्त वृत्तविंद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे all glories to assembled devotees all glories to assembled devotees all glories to assembled devotees all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Srila Prabhupada की जय You know it is. Shri Shri Radhesham Ki Jai. So I'm reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, text number 7. This is actually a very nice verse that describes how how we don't have to suffer for activities, for bad activities that we don't perform in Kali Yuga. Maharaj Parikshit was a realist, like the bees who only accept the essence of a flower. He knew perfectly well that in this age of Kali, auspicious things produce good effects immediately, whereas inauspicious acts must be actually performed to render effects. So he was never envious of the personality of Godhead. I'll read part of the purport.
The age of Kali is called the fallen age. In this fallen age, because the living entities are in an awkward position, the Supreme Lord has given some special facilities to them. So by the will of the Lord, a living being does not become a victim of a sinful act until the act is actually performed. In other ages, simply by thinking of performing a sinful act, one used to become a victim of the act. On the contrary, a living being in this age is awarded with the results of pious acts simply by thinking of them. Maharaj Parikshit, being the most learned and experienced king by the grace of the Lord, was not unnecessarily envious of the personality of Kali, because he did not intend to give him any chance to perform any sinful act. I'll stop there. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So tomorrow we'll have a special program in the evening. There is a Bharatanatyam dance by, I guess, some girls who are blind, and they're visiting here probably for the first time, I think. They will be doing a Bharatanatyam dance, and then also Manoram Prabhu and the boys bus tour will be coming back, so we'll also get a chance to hear from them about their tour. And Shesha Prabhu will give class today. And I don't see the list of those who address the deities. Hare Krishna.
Anyhow, here I couldn't find the paper. I did what I wrote.
Okay, so here are the devotees who have assisted their Guru in dressing the deities today. Sri Sri Radhe Shyam were dressed by Raghunath Prabhu, Chota Radhe Shyam by Mother Leela, Sri Sri Krishna Balaram, Ramanya Prabhu, Chota Krishna Balaram by Mother Rasa Manjari, Sri Sri Gauranitai by Bhadra Prabhu, Chota Gauranitai, Mother Sri Vrindavan, and the Gurus and Lord Nrsingadev by Mother Madhuri Gopi. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtotar Satya Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Kota Vaishnavinda Ki ISKCON Founder Choice Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Word Premanandi All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravane Vachanane Nirvishesha Sunnivari Paschachade Sataname. This morning reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila chapter 8, text number 230. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda So text number 230, word meanings, Gopi Anugatya, subservience to the gopis, Vina, without, Aishvarya Jnane, in the knowledge of opulence, Bhajiliha, if serving the Supreme Lord, Nahi, not, Paya, gets, Rajendra Nandane, the son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna. Gopi Anugatya Vina Aishvarya Gane.
Bajileha Nahi Pai Rajendra Nande Gopi Anugatya Vina Aishvaya Gyane Bajileha Nahi Pai Rajendra Nande Gopi Anugatya Vina Aishvaya Gyane Bajiliha Nahi Pai Brajendra Nande Ladies? Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Unless one follows in the footsteps of the gopis, he cannot attain the service of the lotus feet of Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj. If one is overcome by knowledge of the Lord's opulence, he cannot attain the Lord's lotus feet, even though he is engaged in devotional service. Purport. One can worship Lakshmi Narayan by the process of Vidhi Marg, worshiping the Lord with regulative principles according to the instructions of the Shastra and the spiritual master. However, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Radha Krishna, cannot be directly worshipped by this process. The dealings of Radha and Krishna and the gopis are devoid of the opulences of Lakshmi Narayan. The process of Vidhi Marg, following the regulative principles, is utilized in the worship of Lakshmi Narayan, whereas the process of spontaneous service, following in the footsteps of the gopis, who are the denizens of Vrindavan, is transcendentally more advanced and is the process whereby Radha and Krishna are worshipped. One cannot attain this elevated position while worshiping the Lord in his opulence. Those attracted by the conjugal love between Radha and Krishna must follow in the footsteps of the gopis. Only then is it possible to enter into the Lord's service in Goloka Vrindavan and directly associate with Radha and Krishna. Om Ajnana Tamarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
So I've written a statement which I feel captures what's being instructed in this purport, in this verse and purport. So I want to read that, and then we can discuss that subject matter. So here's the statement. That Krishna's supreme abode is not only an actual place, but is characterized by the intimate feelings of Krishna as served by his devotees, the atmosphere, the forests, etc., is being confirmed by this verse. So that the supreme abode of Krishna is Sri Vrindavan Dham, is being confirmed, and in a very interesting way, why that is the supreme abode of Krishna and why Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead is being nicely explained in this short verse and purport. And it has to do with the feelings of love for Krishna that are manifest in Krishna, the cowherd boy, who's playing on his flute, and the residents of Vrindavan, who are the simple village people. All of this devoid of the awe and veneration and great opulence that we find in Vaikuntha. So, this is explained, the science of this understanding is explained in the literatures of the Goswamis. Particularly if we turn to Srila Sanatana Goswami's Brihad Bhagavatamrita, we find the history of Gopakumar that illustrates this point very nicely. How the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a person who enjoys intimate exchanges in the intimate setting of Sri Vrindavan Dham. You know the history, the story of Gopakumar. He was going from one place to another, even within the spiritual realm, trying to find his place, trying to find where his heart would be satisfied in service of the Supreme Lord, his Master. And so when he was in Vaikuntha, he felt out of place. He wanted to keep his dress. And this is significant because he was dressed as a cowherd boy in simple dress, whereas in Vaikuntha everyone has a form like the Lord, a very opulent dress, and he was advised by the residents there in Vaikuntha that he should change his dress. Why is he dressing like this? It was a little disturbing to the atmosphere that was created, that's there in Vaikuntha. But he didn't want to give up his dress, and that was part of how he served Krishna's intimate desire for friendship in his eternal position, and so he didn't want to give that up. It just wasn't any dress, but it was part of his service to Krishna that he had this dress and that he had this mood of intimacy, of play with Krishna. And Narayan, he understood that, and so therefore he would even allow Gopakumar to play his flute and try to offer that service to him in that way. But somehow or another, he couldn't be satisfied there in that atmosphere. Just the awe and reverence evoked by the Vaikuntha atmosphere was too foreign for him. Last night I was speaking with a devotee, and he was telling me how he recently visited a cathedral, the famous cathedral in Rome, Notre Dame. I guess it was in Paris. Yeah, it was in Paris. And there were columns. When you go in there, the columns were like hundreds of feet high and such a grand scale. Automatically he evoked this mood of awe and reverence. And indeed, that was the purpose, I assume, of building a cathedral like that. And so we can imagine in Vaikuntha what it's like in that atmosphere. The palaces of the Lord, not only hundreds of feet high, but studded with valuable gems and glistening in the sunlight. And then to have darshan of the magnificent Lakshmi Narayan on their throne, it must genuinely be a awe-inspiring experience. But Gopakumar wasn't impressed. It didn't touch his heart. And so ultimately he left that place, and he could only find shelter in Sri Vrindavan, which, as I wrote in my introductory statement, is characterized by the intimate feelings of Krishna surrounded by his devotees, the atmosphere, the forests, the simple village of Vrindavan. That's what attracted him. But how do we then know that that is the ultimate truth, the ultimate expression? Gopakumar may have had that desire, and he may have wanted to be with Krishna in Sri Vrindavan Dham, Goloka Vrindavan. But why is that a higher truth, a higher abode than the Vaikuntha realm? That truth is explained in this verse and purport today. And actually, it's a truth that is taught to us from the very beginning of our practice of devotional service. From the very earliest stages, we are taught to understand how Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and how to worship Him. So if we turn to Bhagavad Gita, for instance, which is the first study when we approach Krishna consciousness, if we turn to Bhagavad Gita, we find how worship is defined in the 4th chapter, text number 11. Yayatam mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajami aham mamavart manuvartante manushya partha sarvashaha. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. So if we try to understand what worship is, and we look to the word here in the verse, second line, tam sataiva bhajami aham. Bhajami, in the word for word, Prabhupada translates as reward. If we go to the root of this word, bhajami or bhaj, it means to worship, but it also means to share. To share. And in this verse, Prabhupada in the word for word says bhajami means to reward. So from that we get the idea that there's a reciprocal relationship. Worship is a reciprocal relationship. Here Krishna is saying he rewards those. The purport is interesting as well. Prabhupada says, everyone is searching for Krishna in the different aspects of his manifestations. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is partially realized in his impersonal Brahmajyoti effulgence and as the all-pervading Supersoul dwelling within everything, including the particles of atoms. So same personality of Godhead, but he's partially realized, not fully realized, in the impersonal Brahmajyoti feature, because the reciprocation, the sharing, the reward is limited. We're persons interacting with the impersonal Brahmajyoti is difficult. It's hard. How do you do it? So therefore, that's a partial manifestation of the Lord. Partial reciprocation is there. So Prabhupada continues. Consequently, Krishna is the object of everyone's realization, and thus anyone and everyone is satisfied according to one's desire to have him. In the transcendental world also, Krishna reciprocates with his pure devotees in the transcendental attitude, just as the devotee wants him. One devotee may want Krishna as Supreme Master, another as his personal friend, another as his son, and still another as his lover. Krishna rewards all the devotees equally according to their different intensities of love for him. So Krishna means the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who rewards or reciprocates with us according to our desire to serve him. And that desire, because he is a person, is manifest in different types of personal relationships with different degrees of intimacy with him. So right from the very beginning of the teachings in Bhagavad Gita, we get some idea that worship of the Supreme Lord, our situation with him eternally, is based on a reciprocal personal relationship that we can have with him. And the more intimate that relationship, the higher that relationship. This is repeated again in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where there's the 4 nutshell verses of Bhagavad Gita. Text number 10 says, Satatam tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tvam yena mam upayanti te. So here we find the word bhaja again, and it's in the second line. Bhajatam pritipurvakam. So worship, how one worships one, Krishna, is rendering devotional service, but there's some quality that has to be there, and it's described, pritipurvakam. Pritipurvakam means in loving ecstasy, or full of love. Basically the words mean full of love. So there has to be bhaja, or worship, but it should be pritipurvakam. That is what satisfies Krishna. And again, Prabhupada in the purport explains, when a person knows the goal of life but is addicted to fruitive activities, he is acting in karma yoga. When he knows that the goal is Krishna, but he takes pleasure in mental speculations to understand Krishna, he is acting in jnana yoga. And when he knows the goal and seeks Krishna completely in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, he is acting in bhakti yoga or buddhi yoga, which is the complete yoga. The complete yoga is the highest perfectional stage of life. So Prabhupada is explaining that the highest is going to be that situation where one is serving with pritipurvakam, full of loving ecstasy, rendering selfless devotional service to Krishna. So wherever that is found is the highest place. Jnana, karma, these things, they may be connected with Krishna, but they cannot be considered the highest truth because they're not based on the completely trying to please Krishna. Rather, one is looking for something for himself. So there has to be a quality to our worship. Again, in the Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the same truth is there. And the point I'm trying to make is these are all at early points in our practice of Krishna consciousness. The very definition of devotional service given by Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Anyabhilasita sunyam jnana karmajinavritam anukulyena Krishna anu silanam bhaktir uttama. So what's the key word in this verse? Anukulyena, favorable, Krishna anusilanam, cultivation of service in relation to Krishna. So again, the stress is giving. A reciprocal relationship with Krishna, Krishna anusilanam, but anukulyena, it has to be favorable. This quality of feeling favorableness towards Krishna has to be there. And then it's considered devotional service. We know that Kamsa, he often constantly thought of Krishna, but it wasn't anukulyena, it wasn't favorable. So that quality makes a difference. So there has to be feeling in our worship of Krishna. That takes us to higher realms or higher abodes. The abodes of Krishna, and of course Krishna's abode is everywhere, but he's in our heart, he's in every atom, he's in the Vaikuntha planets. But is that the complete expression of Krishna? Our Siddhanta says it's not. The complete expression is found, as described in the verse here today, in Sri Vrindavan Dham, where there's an intimate relationship of exchange between the Lord and his devotees. So, feeling, but that feeling has to be guided. And who is it guided by? It's guided by the residents of Vrindavan. And we find this in the very beginning of our practices of Krishna consciousness as well. From the very beginning, we're told to follow. And who do we follow in the very beginning? We follow Guru. And he tells us to worship the deity, for instance. He trusts us with worshiping Krishna. Prabhupada would often, in the beginning of the movement where he was traveling and they were installing deities, Australia comes to mind. The story is given how he prayed to the deity there, I'm leaving you with my disciples, please, be kind and accept their worship. He was trusting his dear friend in our care because he had that personal feeling in the deity worship. He was giving us Krishna. He told us to chant. He told us to chant Hare Krishna, but how? He told us like a child crying for its mother. So there's some quality to the chanting. He instructed us. If you want to follow my teachings of chanting Hare Krishna, then do it with feeling. He taught us like this, that this is how you follow. Follow the mood that I've given you. We know it's so important. And Prabhupada was very concerned that we understand his mood and that we follow it. His mission is based on his mood. How can we execute his mission? How can we do the service if we don't understand and appreciate his mood and follow that? It's so important. And so in all the instructions he gave us, how to follow his mood was particularly important. So initially we follow the Guru, we follow Srila Prabhupada, but as described in this verse, actually before as described in this verse, let's look at a couple of the other things that Prabhupada gave us in our practices, which are activities of following. Tulsi Puja. And the Tulsi Puja. I just want to read the translation to this Tulsi Kirtan because I love this translation. It's so appropriate to understanding Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. O Tulsi, beloved of Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire is to obtain the service of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. So that's the desire, to obtain the service of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. So how is it going to be done? Whoever takes shelter of you, Brinda Devi, whoever takes shelter of you has his wishes fulfilled. Bestowing your mercy on him, you make him a resident of Vrindavan. So how are we going to serve Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan? By taking shelter of Brinda Devi, the servant of Krishna, the resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you will also grant me a residence in the pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of the cowherd damsels of Braja. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maidservant. So this is Sakira Anugata Karo, following in the footsteps of the gopis. Prabhupada gave us right at the very beginning of our practice of devotional service. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna prays, may always swim in the love of Sri Sri Radha and Govinda. So if you want that love of Radha and Govinda, then you have to follow in the footsteps of the gopis. You have to follow Srila Prabhupada. You have to do Tulsi Puja. We have to develop this thought in our minds. By following in this way, we can attain the supreme abode of Krishna. The other example I have down here is Ratha Yatra. Ratha Yatra is so all-pervading in our society. Bhadra Prabhu has just got permission for yet another Ratha Yatra in Florida, you know, on the campus of the University of Central Florida. Right on the campus. September 5th, mark it in your calendar. Right on the campus of the University of Central Florida in Orlando, we're going to have a Ratha Yatra. That's on a weekday when all the students are there. And that has the largest student body in any of the school systems here in Florida. So Ratha Yatra, what is it? What's going on at Ratha Yatra? It's Gopi Anagatya, following in the footsteps of the gopis. They went to Kurukshetra to meet the Lord during the lunar eclipse. And they met Krishna after years and years and years. But they weren't satisfied. Gopakumar wasn't satisfied in Vaikuntha. The gopis weren't satisfied seeing Krishna in Kurukshetra. Why? Who knows why they weren't satisfied? Yeah, they want to see him as a simple cowherd boy. He was wearing a crown, dressed royal dress, surrounded by all soldiers and army and everything. It wasn't the same atmosphere. The atmosphere matters. The dress matters. Because they couldn't enjoy the meeting Krishna in that. And so therefore they wanted to bring him back to Vrindavan. And that's what Rath Yatra is. They're bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan so they can enjoy in that atmosphere. The atmosphere is not just a happenstance, some place by random they happen to be. No, it's the mood manifesting there to serve Krishna. The forest, the trees, the grass, the moon, all the elements, the wind, the breeze carrying favorable scents of the flowers, all these are offering service to Krishna in the most intimate way. That's why Vrindavan is so special. That's why Krishna in Vrindavan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because the most intimate exchanges of love between himself and his devotees take place there. So Prabhupada gave us Rath Yatra. It helps us follow in this mood of the gopis. And Prabhupada also often quoted one verse about what is the best method of worship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. And so I have the verse here. It's from Chaitanya Manusha, which is a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. It's rather famous, you probably know it. Aradjo Bhagavan Rajeshva Tanayas Tadama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachid Upasana Vrajavadu Vargena Va Kalpita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the son of Nanda Maharaj, is to be worshipped along with his transcendental abode, Vrindavan. The most pleasing form of worship for the Lord is that which was performed by the gopis of Vrindavan. So Prabhupada, quoting this verse time and time again in his lectures, is explaining that worship of Krishna in Vrindavan is the topmost. But at least for me, this word worship sometimes connotates things like that are more common in the awe and reverence. You know, you're worshiping, and you know, there's all kinds of chanting going on, and you know, ritualistic performances being done, and yes, that is worship. But the worship of the gopis, it's described here. The Sanskrit is Ramya Kachid Upasana. So Upasana means worship, the process of worship. But Upasana also means to sit near. Just like Upanaya, we take Gayatri mantra from the Guru. It means you come and sit near the Guru and get instruction. So same Upasana, it means you sit near, you're intimately connected with it. And so although it's Upasana worship, it does not give the connotation of this ritualistic, awe-inspiring kind of programs, but rather the intimate personal service of the Lord that's exhibited by the behavior of the gopis in Vrindavan, where it's devoid of the opulences of Lakshmi Narayan, as Prabhupada says in here in the purport. The dealings between Radha and Krishna and the gopis are devoid of the opulences of Lakshmi Narayan. The process of Vidimarg, following regular principles, is utilized in the worship of Lakshmi Narayan, whereas the process of spontaneous service, following in the footsteps of the gopis, who are the denizens of Vrindavan, is transcendently more advanced and is the process whereby Radha and Krishna are worshipped. So we want to worship Radha and Krishna somehow or another, unbelievably so. We have been given the opportunity to approach the worship of Radha and Krishna. We're going to do a play here on Prabhupada's appearance day. And in that play, it's just talking about Prabhupada's getting blessings from the Acharyas as he begins his mission to come to the West. But it starts with Krishna saying, Krishna speaking, and he's explaining how for a long time I haven't given pure devotion to myself. Therefore, I will come as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give us this very rare gift, rare opportunity of service to Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. It's not always available. The door is open now. We should take it. We should understand that it's the highest form of worship, and we should take it. Otherwise, one of our acharyas sings that I've simply drinking poison, simply wasting my life in drinking poison, that I haven't taken this opportunity that's there. So that's approved by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's how this verse from the Chaitanya Manusya explains. These statements, which are the highest regard, are the opinion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So worship of Krishna, Radha and Krishna in Sri Vrindavan Dham is the highest worship, and we should take advantage of it. So, are there any questions or comments about these subject matters? Dharmaraj Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, so seeing that you're making Rath Yatra announcements, I thought I'll announce two more.
Okay.
Two new ones we're working on, Puerto Rico, we're working on the permits right now, and also devotees in Alabama just asked us to organize one there. It's a small group, so.
Rath Yatra in Alabama, oh my God.
Hare
I
Krishna.
can hardly believe it. Alabama.
Yeah. Anyway, can I make a comment?
Yeah.
So, on those two verses that you have mentioned from Bhagavad Gita, Tesam Satata Yuktanam and Yeyatamam, sometimes others try to apply that also to the demigods, because the demigods also reward accordingly. But the key word there is Bhajatam, which comes from Bhaj, which basically means a worship that is reserved for the Supreme Personality of Godhead only and no one else. So like that, it's directly referring to the Lord. That's where the word bhajan comes from. That bhajan is specifically for the Supreme Personality and not anyone else. Of course, through the medium of the spiritual master.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Any other points? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, thank you. I was just wondering about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates and their magnanimity. We chant the Panchatattva mantra before we chant our Hare Krishna mantra. So I wonder if you can speak how that protects us. On the one hand, we hear that it protects us from offenses, but then we have to be careful of not offending at the same time.
Right. Well, I guess there are many ways that could be answered, but answering it in line with what we presented here today, I would say that it's following. It's chanting Hare Krishna, but we're following the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. Not just that, any mood, but their understanding, their mood, their teachings. We want their blessing so that we can chant Hare Krishna, so that we can approach Krishna. That's ultimately the way to approach Krishna, is not just following the footsteps, meaning their instructions, their mood, but actually doing what they say, doing what they do. In that way, take their blessings to approach Krishna, and not think that, I can approach Krishna directly. That's not the mood, but to render some service. Gopi Bharta Pada Kamalayor Dasa 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 Anudas. So we're the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. Not that we want to immediately, oh, I have your mood, let me just jump up and serve Krishna directly. Even particularly in our line, we followers of the Manjaris, and the Manjaris don't want personal interaction with Krishna in their service. They simply want to serve the gopis in their interactions with Krishna. There's not a desire on the part of the Manjaris, oh, I want to be with Krishna. But no, just to facilitate that service to Krishna. And so that mood is given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates and followers, and we follow in that regard. So therefore we chant Panchatattva. Yes?
Prabhupada is mentioning how, in the purport, that how we worship deities in the mood of Lakshmi Narayan, and yet Prabhupada is talking about to develop falling in the mood of the gopis. I guess there's always like a dichotomy, like, okay, we're worshipping them as Lakshmi Narayan, and yet we're supposed to follow in that mood. How does it work? Like, you till the end of your life you worship them as Lakshmi Narayan. That's how Prabhupada is instructing us, and yet he's instructing us, following the mood of the gopis. So,
well, the deity worship is given to us by Prabhupada as a method of purification of our existence, at least initially. We have to follow according to the rules and regulations, because otherwise we have no qualification to approach the deity in a spontaneous, with spontaneity or in sort of raga manner. So we have the vidhi that's given to us, worship according to regulations. That will also evoke rag as we progress. And so I wouldn't say that, and maybe others can answer it better than me, but I wouldn't say that everyone in worshiping the deity in our temples remains on a vidhi level, and there's no spontaneity there. But as I'm sure you're aware, the raganuga, or the more spontaneous worship, doesn't necessarily mean that you don't follow the vidhi. So someone may be worshiping the deities and purified themselves and qualified, and rag actually is developing in their heart, but you wouldn't see necessarily a difference in the worship on the altar in the temple, because that is included in. And we see this, that even in the 5 rasas that are exchanged with Krishna, the highest rasa contains all the others. And so the vidhi will also be contained in the rag expression. And so in our temples, in the public worship, we follow the vidhi, because that's what Prabhupada wanted. But that doesn't necessarily inhibit one's individual spiritual advancement and growth. That's how I would understand it. Anything else? Yes, Thomas?
On one hand, like my understanding on what Mataji was saying is that whilst the deity worship is for the public, for everyone who ranges from the most neophyte to the most advanced within the material world here, that's probably one of the reasons why Srila Prabhupada instructed that it be on that level, or we see it on that level. But as a devotee advances in Krishna consciousness, he follows all the rules and regulations as we see from all our acharyas. And actually when one becomes really advanced, then rules and regulations follows him instead, like in the case of Nityananda Prabhu. So can you give a comment on that, whether my understanding is right or wrong?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's fine, as you stated. I don't have anything to add to that. Okay. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Why do they necessarily have to just be a that's biting because they're together, so we're not even, recognition.